June 4th, 1942. The sun rises over the Pacific Ocean near Midway Atoll. The largest naval battle in history unfolds on the horizon. The United Fleet of Admiral Yamamoto approaches with 4 aircraft carriers and over 160 ships, ready to crush the American Pacific Fleet once and for all. But today, something impossible is moving towards Midway Atoll. Instead of 4 aircraft carriers filled with experienced pilots, a single warship approaches the battle that should not exist for another 80 years. Meet JS Ma, a Japanese Aegis destroyer of maritime self-defense from the year 2025. Can a single modern Japanese destroyer change the course of World War II? Or will he be overwhelmed by the powerful American fleet? Keep in mind, this is just a hypothetical scenario I came up with at 2 in the morning, so it isn't perfect. JS Ma is 10,000 tons of pure technological superiority, armed with systems capable of erasing entire squadrons from the face of the Earth and radars that see beyond the horizon. Its SPY-1D radar can track hundreds of targets simultaneously, while the Aegis combat system processes threats faster than human thought. We are talking about 90 vertical launch systems loaded with SM-2 and SM-6 missiles that can shoot down aircraft at distances exceeding 100 kilometers. These are not primitive missiles from the 40s. These are high-precision munitions with guidance systems and warheads capable of penetrating modern armor plates. Its main weapon, a 127mm caliber, fires high-precision shells guided by GPS satellites that will not exist for decades. And perhaps the most terrifying thing is that this destroyer moves at 30 knots, making less noise than a fishing boat. It is invisible to the sonar and radar of 1942, which are just beginning to develop. A Maya-class destroyer costs between $1 and $1.6 billion, comparable to a British-type 45 destroyer, yet cheaper than a modern Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, which costs around $2 to $2.4 billion. In other words, Maya is in the top price category for destroyers. At 6 in the morning, the first American reconnaissance planes take off from the aircraft carriers Enterprise and Hornet. They are searching for the Japanese fleet, following standard search routes developed over months of war in the Pacific. They do not expect to see the only object located 200 meters northwest of their position, moving at impossible speed and without visible escorts. Maya's radar detects American reconnaissance planes like neon signs in the dark. The ship's combat complex identifies them as SBD Dauntless dive bombers and TBF Avenger torpedo bombers, outdated aircraft by the standards of 2025, but in 1942, they represent the most modern naval aviation in America. The crew of the destroyer faces an impossible choice: engage in battle and reveal their location, or maintain stealth and allow scouts to report their observations. They choose to fight. SM-6 missiles soar into the sky at a speed of 3.5 Mach. Their guidance systems lock onto targets that have no idea they are part of the most one-sided air battle in history. The first Dauntless simply disappears in a fireball, then another. The remaining reconnaissance planes break formation, swiftly diving to deck level and desperately transmitting messages about contacts that make no sense to those listening. On board the Enterprise, Admiral Spruance receives fragmented reports of planes disappearing without explanation. Some pilots report explosions in a clear sky. Others describe a single large ship moving at impossible speed. These reports sound like the consequences of combat fatigue or equipment malfunction. But when none of the missing scouts return to their aircraft carriers, the situation becomes extremely serious. America's response is large-scale and immediate. All available planes take off from the Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown. 96 dive bombers, torpedo bombers, and fighters rush towards the only contact that contradicts everything they know about naval warfare. They're heading into the zone of the most advanced air defense system ever deployed, but they have no way of knowing it. The radar of the Japanese destroyer tracks the approaching strike like in a video game. The ship's automated systems calculate interception courses, missile flight times, and combat priorities faster than any human could comprehend. Then the first wave is within reach. The ship unleashes a technological hell. The SM-2 and SM-6 rockets are launched with lightning speed. Each is guided by radar beams more precise than anything imaginable in the 40s. American Wildcats are torn to pieces like paper airplanes in a hurricane. Diving bombers, Dauntless, loaded with thousands of pounds of bombs, turn into fireballs before realizing they are under attack. The psychological impact on the surviving pilots is devastating. But the Japanese destroyer has a problem. On board, there are only 90 missiles, and after destroying most of the American planes, his supplies are nearing a dangerous limit. More critically, the ship fights in 1942, without satellite navigation for weapon control or communication channels to coordinate with non-existent allies. The crew must rely solely on their onboard sensors and pray that nothing breaks too early. The American fleet adapts with the desperate creativity that helped them win the war. Spruance orders his remaining planes to attack in coordinated waves from different directions, stretching the destroyer's combat range beyond its capabilities. Some airplanes manage to break through, dropping bombs and torpedoes that harmlessly fall around the armored hull of a Japanese ship. But the psychological impact on both sides is profound. The Japanese destroyer responds, going on the offensive. His anti-ship missiles of Type 90 do not require direct visibility. They can fly 100 meters, navigating around obstacles using inertial navigation, and arrive exactly where they are least expected. The ship launches a salvo towards the last known positions of the American aircraft carriers. Observers from the Enterprise notice a small fast plane approaching at wave height. Too late. A 500-pound warhead explodes on the aircraft carrier's deck, piercing the steel plates and igniting aviation fuel reserves. Minutes later, the ship that launched the attack on Dittle fights for survival. The Hornet also sustains serious damage. Each hit is precise and devastating. American disaster response teams are working at a frantic pace, trying to deal with a fire caused by weapons that should not exist. The tactical scene on the destroyer shows American forces scattered and disorganized. 3 aircraft carriers are heavily damaged. Escort ships are sinking or fleeing. It's time for the final phase. The ship approaches within 30 meters and simultaneously launches its remaining long-range missiles. Each major American unit is struck. Enterprise получает дополнительные удары, которые затопляют ангарные палубы. В машинных отделениях Хорнета происходят взрывы от ударов ниже ватерлинии. Даже поврежденный Йорктаун получает фатальные удары, когда дым рассеется над центральной частью Тихого океана. The Battle of Midway becomes the most one-sided naval victory in an alternative history. 3 American aircraft carriers sink in the waves of the Pacific Ocean. Escort cruisers and destroyers burn or flee eastward. The offensive capability of the U.S. Pacific Fleet is undermined in just one morning. A mysterious Japanese warship disappears as suddenly as it appeared, leaving behind only wreckage and incredible stories. The Maya-class destroyer will be remembered as the ghost of Midway. American survivors describe weapons beyond comprehension, missiles that struck without warning from invisible launchers, a vessel that compressed America's learning curve from years to hours due to pure technological superiority. The Japanese Naval Headquarters receives fragmentary reports that seem meaningless, mentioning a single destroyer that successfully attacked American aircraft carriers. But questions remain. Can the limited ammunition of the destroyer really overcome such overwhelming forces? Will American submarines ultimately be able to detect and sink this phantom ship? The answers depend on factors we can only guess at. Technological gaps, tactical adaptation, and the fog of war play key roles.